So in Kubernetes, a pod is the smallest deployable unit and not containers. Now, to visualize what a pod is, I've got this really nice diagram. So this is a pod. So within a pod, you will always have one main container, and the main container represents your application, whether it's written in Node.js, JavaScript, or Golang, whatever language that you want. Then you may or may not have init containers, and more on init containers, but they are containers which are executed before the main container. And then we might or might not have some side containers. So you could have one or two, and also here, whatever language that you want. Now, side containers are containers that support your main container. So for example, you might have a container which acts as a proxy to your main container. Also within pods, we can have volumes, and this is how containers share data between them. Now, the way that these containers communicate to each other within a pod is using localhost and then whatever port that they expose. The pod itself has a unique IP address, which means that if another pod wants to talk to this pod, it uses the unique IP address. So a pod is a group of one or more containers. It represents a running process. It shares the same network and volumes. And one thing to bear in mind here is that you should never create pods on its own. We should use controllers instead, such as, for example, a deployment. And we're going to learn exactly deployments, jobs, replica sets throughout this course, but it's good for you to understand the smallest deployable unit of Kubernetes. Now, the reason why I'm saying that you should never create pods on its own is because pods, they are ephemeral and disposable. Ephemeral means that they're not long-lived, therefore they are disposable. And remember, I said that Kubernetes is an orchestrator, and we have a bunch of controllers that monitor the state of our cluster. So if a pod dies, then if you create a pod on its own, then there is no way that Kubernetes knows how to manage and bring another pod for you. More on this later, but remember I said the smallest deployable unit for Docker are containers, and for Kubernetes are pods. Next, let's go ahead and learn how to create pods.